Everybody, Day Trader Rockstar here, and this is a market update video and an update video for Day Trading Radio. I was off today on Monday. I was traveling. I had a travel day. I had to pick up my daughter down in South Carolina. So, I was going to stay a little bit later, but decided to come home early because it was just hot down there, and I think, well, not to go into it, kids were homesick and stuff. So we came back a little early. I'm here at the office about 9, 10 o'clock here on a Monday night, and I wanted to just get an update video because I had to catch up. Even if I take a day off, lots of times, in the market so much as I am, day in and day out, and lots of times you get in tune with the market, and even being off a day sometimes could throw you out of whack just a bit. You just don't feel the rhythm of the market. So I like to kind of take it slow. So tomorrow's Tuesday. Futures are what are we at here? Futures are flat overnight. S&P futures up 4, Nasdaq futures up 12, Dow futures up 63. But we did hit all first time ever to break 6,300, right? Or maybe even 6,350. We're above 6,350. I think it was a major milestone again, all-time highs again. And the markets look good. So I wanted to just catch up, kind of just say, hey, thanks for, sorry for the dead air today. I know Dowey was helping out and stuff, getting on there. I appreciate the time to do that. So tomorrow we're going to kick it off. We're going to get right back into it. This is, even though we're coming into the summer season, we're going to talk about that in a second. Things tend to slow down. Volatility, liquidity in the markets drops. And just a lot of people go on vacation and stuff, and the Wall Street crew. It's just that old adage that traders go to the Hamptons, and they put the second string quarterbacks out there, which is usually sometimes good. But historically, going into if we look back at the Stock Trader Almanac, historically July, August and September going into October is typically the worst months of the year. When we look at that as a historical side view of that whole time frame, where the Christmas season, early years are very, very bullish, and then you have other sections. But this we're entering the very slow and typically down, not as strong part of the market. Now we can still be up. It's just that's just putting that out there for you. But the stocks are looking good, and I think you're going to continue to concentrate on some great stocks. Keep the good stocks in favor. Try not to, because you could get a little boring here. You don't want to just get bored out of a trade or bored into a trade. So we're going to continue to keep the discipline and the criteria strict. When I do talk about stocks, I like to put out the criteria for those is they have to be typically in the buy area. In this type of environment, in this market, there's no reason really to go short. So we're looking at things that are quality names that are pulled back in an uptrend. Love to get the divergence set up, the dual rotation. The chart you're looking at here is my TC2000. I do have a divergence scan running on this, which kind of outlies some divergences on the different time frames, and not all of them, but I do keep that here. So lots of times we'll see an area, and if it does happen to point, we get a divergence, I do pay attention to that. I add that. I have BABA on the screen right now. Let's talk about BABA. We got into BABA at the lows here. I mean, we had a great trade on BABA, and went all the way up, and we took profits up here. But it still looks good. I just, starting, you can see the stochastics up here are embedded. This looks like it's holding up pretty good. It's above the 28, broke this long trend line. The only thing is that we have the tariffs, possibly, tariff war continue with China. They're talking, there could be some issues out there on the horizon with President Trump getting a little fed up with Putin, and because Putin doesn't really respond well to sanctions, that we might start sanctioning big, other countries that do a lot of big deals with Russia, and that's going to be China for their oil. So we might see that kind of a weird backdoor trade, of high tariff, 100% tariffs on China for some bit. I don't know how that might react to the markets or the Chinese stocks, but that's always out there. Just want to throw that out there. That might come up in the future. But let's take a look at some other stocks that I'm holding. I did recently get into right before last week. Remember, we're looking at quality names that are pulling back, and I was looking at Lululemon, and I did start my position back here in Lululemon, and it was also dual divergence, but it's not taking off. I'm actually down a little on it, but we're right. This is circles basically where we got in, so it's down a little from looks like today it went down a little, but this is a couple things. We're oversold. Nice Nike check mark. The possibility of a divergence here. We have a fast. Even if we take out the lows here, we'd watch these stochastics, see if they rotated back up, especially at 9.3, way above that. It seems to be flatlining here. It's not an aggressive move down. But we love those divergences in a stock like Lululemon. So you have that low here. You can start to see that. So there's a potential here on a divergence. There's already a set divergence signal there, which is, you would have to do the measurements on the lows and the price, but you probably see a mathematical divergence right here. So I'm not disappointed with this. I mean, this is probably one of the bigger stocks that I have, Lululemon. But that's a recent update on that. I've been kind of banging the table on the triple Ds. This is a cheaper stock that I have, and we call this a cedar. And a cedar is a stock that kind of baselines here. It has something going for it. Maybe a name, maybe like a Kodak, a quality name. Back in the day, it was something. It was a viable, tangible business. I'm not just doing like a mailbox business, where you don't know the name, you don't know it's some Chinese company, mortgage company or something like that. Where this is a legitimate company. So 3D, I could see this popping. Getting a double out of this. Every so often these real cheap stocks will move, and they'll move because they're so cheap. A move up could be 50% to a 100% moves. That's imagine getting 50% on a return. So this looks like that perfect scenario. Now the worst case scenario, they could announce bankruptcy. So just remember, every trade comes with its risks. But I like the and there's also a lawsuit going on here. But there's always lawsuits on these cheap stocks. Saying they're not performing right, or you misled investors. You said we're going to be, that this industry was going to take off. Well, welcome. So I think there could be some announcement here on Triple D and AI teaming together to make Super Triple D. Just something positive out there that's going to give this thing a pop. So I like the Triple D, holding on to it. All right, holding on to that. Now I have some other cheap ones. We're not really going to go into the cheap ones too much. This is a semiconductor stock, and we had a nice, what we call legend. I call this a ledge pattern. You kind of ledge out, especially if you're off the lows. And this is kind of the base. Then you have the ledge here. And the ledge, then we got in on the ledge, and we got the pop, and we took profits, and then we got back in it. So I'm back in it on a pullback. It pulled back a little bit further, but I think we're in a good position down here. 543 is our average buy price, 543, which is really good. So I just, there's something about this. One of our members brought it up, Hiroshima. Shout out to Hiro in the room. He brought this one up. I looked into it. It looked very interesting. I like the patterns. I see these patterns. I study patterns for 25 years. So I identify a certain ledge pattern. We know the direction it's going to go. It's just the timing becomes important. Also, maybe you don't know who I am. I'm Day Trader Rockstar. I host Day Trading Radio. That's on every day except today, which was no commentary, but the show was on. Get on the air about 9 o'clock, and we trade the whole day, live trading. It's great. And I use a very specific criteria, methodology that I've developed over the years that identify the highest probability zones in the market. And we use that also for stock trading, but more on a longer-term swing trade basis. Like this could almost be considered a quad rotation, even though we're looking at dual stochastics here. But when you have those stochastics in your favor, you have a much better chance of that market moving, in your direction. So we look for certain things. All you need to find, everything you need to learn about this is on daytradingradio.com. So feel free to go over there, DTR.TV/free. That's DTR.TV/free for a 10-day pass. So that's really good, and it gives you A lot of beginner lessons and everything. So check that out. All right, back onto the poet. You didn't even know it, but we're back in it. Now I have a bigger stock here, SWK. We're holding. This has just been a dragger. It's on the trend line. We're holding it. We're kind of just neutral. It's kind of pointing down a little. I don't expect it really to go too much lower. I'd like to actually see it pop, tomorrow. Hold this trend line. If we can hold this trend line, then we're definitely looking at the top part of this trend line. And I would think that would be a great level. So there is a 7140 area here. I would use 7140 right now as my buy trigger. All right, I would use that as a buy trigger on this stock. Now I'm already in it. I'm in SWK 6950. Oh no, 7030. I'm in at 7030. What number is this? Well, buy trigger. I'm just going to put down buy trigger. So we already have it. It's gonna trigger when we get this. So when I get the trigger, I send it out to the members. Because this is kind of a good one. It's also a gap area back here too. So we get back into that gap. One more time, I think we're going to just kind of get going, finally get going on this. But it's not out of the woods. It's not exciting, but just an update on it. Excuse me. Teledoc, TDOC. Guess what we got here? A little ledge pattern. A beginning, a nice ledge. We go off the lows. We start to consolidate off the lows into a ledge. And, we're in this. 790 is the cost average. 790. 400 shares, not many, but I just like this. Again, another known name. Just starting to turn back up. Earnings are coming out. Don't forget this. We are entering earnings season. Earnings will be out here 729. 729, which is going to be in a couple days, right? No, that's about 8 days away. So next week. Next week we have earnings on Teledoc. Something to consider if you want. Now I have Snap. I've been holding Snap a while. And it's just started moving. And I would actually, like I said, if I was here today paying attention, because my cost average here is 877, I got plenty of profit in this now. This is exactly. I'd like to get $1 to $2 on this, and we have that. So if I was here this morning or really being able to trade, I'd probably have taken it off around that 10:30. I didn't. Let's just take a look at here, and it kind of closed on the lows. So I'll have to see if we're going to get out of it tomorrow. Maybe I would like to just take this off, move the money into something a little bit more exciting. All right, so that's due to come off. RR is another cheapie. Been holding this for a while, and it's just been going sideways. And it's just, again, 288 is my cost. That's 2008 cents. It has to get back up here. I got it way back here in January, February, or March or something. Then we had Riley, TNA. Let's take a look at. We do have a couple that are moving up here. This is the three that I'm holding, and I would consider buying more. I think the DraftKings is an easy, easy trade right here to all-time highs. All-time highs are up here at 53. It's 44 right now, but we're also going to break. We're starting to break through. Some good levels, old levels back here. So this is Tractor Supply Company. I'm in at 54.48, 54.48. I added more, brought my cost average down. It says 45, but I have 50. That was before. So that was one of our first entries when I traded back there. Lots of time to put it, but my cost average now is 54.48. Or is that 44.48? That might be 44.48. Might be actually printed wrong there. I think that's 44.48. I have to actually open that up. And then the next one is Comcast, CMCSA. There we go. And again, looking at some of these quality names, looking for maybe the oversold stochastics here starting to turn up. We might have a better shot here of moving up. But it is kind of another dead stock for the last 6 months. Now, surrounding ourselves with the best names. And if I gave you my top 5 picks, Google has to be leading right about now. Google's starting to take off. I mean, there's so much with the AI coming around. There's so much with everything. Google is just a great company. That's good, and it's under $200. It's 190 right now. That's a $200. That's a 220 stock. 220 pretty easily. So I would definitely, I hate chasing this thing way up here. I don't think this thing's pulling back. And I do believe we have earnings out on the 23rd on Google. 23rd. So that's in 2 days. 23rd. I would be long into Google. I would. Like it. Let's take a look at NVIDIA, NVDA. Okay, again, these are the stocks you need to be in, you know. It's hard to chase it all the way up here, especially when you have a criteria to get in on those stochastics. But look at this strength in NVIDIA. Holy crap. Talk about never making a rotation. It hasn't rotated down in months. It's been embedded up here. Very rare to see that type of strength. Pretty impressive. And that you would expect that to continue to go higher. All right. Now I have, this is a big, well, it's not a big position, but I have a decent profit on it. It's Netflix, Cloudflare. I have 50 shares of it. But my cost average is $76. I got it back here probably November, December, whenever it was. One of my favorites, and continue to hold it, and I expect it to continue to get over $200. I don't see a reason to get rid of this. That's the problem. So I'll continue to hold that. Tractor Supply Company looks great. The Intel, INTC. Let's take a look at the INTC. I was a big believer in Intel at under $20, and now we're at $23.35. So we've moved up here pretty good. Do we get back up? Do we go to 25 and higher? Yeah, I honestly believe we do. Honestly, believe we did. Now, we're going to have earnings coming out this week on Intel also. So there's going to be, there might be some stuff going on. That's going to be Thursday the 24th after the market closes, Intel. If it got a gap down, I would buy the gap down. If it gapped up, well, I would probably hold on to it. I don't know if I would add on the gap up. But if it gaps, it goes. It could get a nice little rally. We'll see what comes of the report. But that's going to be exciting for this week also, Intel. Now, and I would say right now, the ones in focus, like to get that move in Lululemon. It might be a few days away. All right, might be a few days away on this. And I want to do a couple scans with you right now. We'll just hang out together. Also, I'm going to catch up my emails. If you remember, and you sent an email in, I've been, again, excuse me. I have a little Coke here. Coca-Cola. I was away the whole weekend. There was no way. I couldn't even get an internet connection. So I didn't check my emails. Didn't really get to them. I'll do them tonight right after I send this video out. But give me a day on these, please. Remember, it's just me. Especially with the emails. I got a lot of them. So there's something that's probably I need to fix a little bit better is my response time. But I'll just put out there as a disclaimer, give me 24 hours at least on the emails if you ever do send or find something. And just understand if it's, I'm doing all I can to do the show and to answer questions. The best way to get in touch with me is during the day in the chat room because I'm there with the chat with all the traders. And they ask me a question, I'm answering live on the air. So that's where all my focus goes. It's very hard sometimes to check emails in the middle of a trade. So I just turn it, I don't even look at it. All right, but we're going to do some scans now. So this is a, let's see, it might not even have anything. We have one, Verizon. So Verizon showing up as, you can see this little line here starting. This is, well, the last time we had a divergence here was here. Not bad, right? I mean, it went all the way up. That was caught the bottom. This is the second time we have a divergence. We actually had a pop on earnings. This might actually be good. The earnings might kickstart this whole thing. I want to circle it because I kind of like this now. Now, I'm not a big fan of getting into a telecom stock because it's not a big mover, and I'm not going to mess with it. But we're going to circle it. As the circles mean we like it. It's the first we always look at. We never put our circles back in time. So if a circle goes in, we'd always go back on the chart and say, "Oh, we liked it here. Why?" And see how it does, how it goes. That's the only one showing up as on a divergence scan. So the other scan I'm going to do right here, and I'm going to show you it here. I put these scans together. using the TC2000 formulas, and making these formulas, which is pretty cool. By measuring the stochastics and the price, and I did this all longhand, but it works really good. Let's see here. Let's see here. What do I want? Oh, you know what? I want to do the scan this way. So I have a divergence scan is really important for me too. But if we don't have a divergence scan, I like to get the next best thing, something that's just closing in on a divergence. So I said, I made a scan here, approaching potential divergences. So that has all the characteristics of a divergence, but it's not a pure divergence. So it'll have the stochastics down, setting up, but it just won't be triggered yet. But everything is always very close to triggering. So we're going to make a watch list on that. And I'm going to move that to the S&P 500. And then boom, we have 27 stocks now to kind of, that might fit. Oh, did I just get rid of it? Let me see. Here we go. I'm going to move. I want to float it over here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Give me a second here. Float. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through these fast with you. This is a live scan. While I'm doing a live scan, Copy Trading Network. I tried to get it out last week. Had to do this trip. Got in my way. Had to catch up on people with the one-on-ones. This is a hard project to get launched. I apologize. I'm going to do all I can to get it launched this week. Bear with me. It's coming. It's coming. All right. So here's Texas Pacific Land Trust. Not interested. Conagra. So you can see we looked at it a couple times. Here was a little divergence. It didn't give us much on that divergence. But you can see there was probably a little divergence in here. We had a little pop, oversold, and didn't give us any there. 1880. I mean, this is getting pretty. I have to look at the history of this stock, but it is at the lows here. Let's take a look at the weekly. I mean, this is pretty bad. But you would think that there is a bounce here at one point. It would think so. Conagra. But not interested. We want something that's a rock star. Dollar General. Just got oversold. Now, again, this is what this is bringing up is the oversold levels. So I'm going to circle because it's oversold. And this also tells me when I look back at stocks like this, I could go back and says, how does this thing work when I look at it and it has a setup? Does it perform great with a setup? Does it have no desire to be part of any type of organized pattern? Is it totally just a dog? Some stocks, like bigger stocks and real quality names, will every time you get that rotation, it bounces, and it's just like a perfect. So that's what you want to find. You want to find a pattern with the oversold. Like here's an oversold, a nice move up. Here's an oversold. Do we get a nice move up? Here's an oversold, nice move up. Here's oversold, a little move up. So you have your odds. Your odds are that you're probably going to get a nice move up here soon on Dollar General. So that's why I circled that, so we can go back on it. Molina, but a lot of these will be like this. Now this one's kind of embedded. I don't have any desire for that. And a lot of these I won't, because these could all be falling knives too. Here's Roper Technology. And again, I'm still looking for things that I am familiar with. Weisenhauser. I think there's a lumber company. Waters. Teleflex. Oversold. I'm not interested in any. Lamb Weston. That's a potato company. Earnings are coming up. STC, nothing here looking good. Laboratory Corp of America, like where you go get blood and stuff. Biogen. HRL. GIS. What are we up to? General Mills. All those food stocks are just getting it. I'm just going through the Agilent, nothing. Pod. Always interested in the diabetes plays. Coming back down to the 200s, you can see the 200 actually reacted good to the stock multiple times. Will that be another easy trade off of this? You have a quad rotation, well, not a quad, but you have an oversold stochastic, and you have a 200 period moving average. A reversal candle, like an engulfing candle or some kind of bullish candle down against this might be worth a visit. Evelyn's Health. Someone was looking at that the other day. 277. Costco. This is an interesting one. I always watch Costco, Watched it here on the trend line. It was like, didn't get it, It's a little expensive, and I don't like to do the options as much as I like to do the common shares. So this was a little up there. I was just going to pass on that. But now we're down here. We're oversold. It had an old divergence, a second divergence right here, almost a running divergence. Something about this down here looks good. I'm going to circle it again, and we'll see if that continues to push, at least get a move off of this, because this is one of those stocks where you could look at the quad here, a nice move. Here you had a quad or a stochastic. That was probably the bottom there. You can zoom in, you could see it here and here right there. Look at that bottom right there. And that had a huge move up, and this had a huge move up. And we're just kind of getting there. The second one right here, which is I like that second. So something to watch. That's got to be up there on our list of stocks that we like going into next week. At least this one. Conagra. All right, that's it on that. All right, well, that's going to be on the stock side of things. Probably going to end up taking some profits. Hopefully we continue. That's just I really my cheap stock of the my favorite cheap stocks is going to be the Triple D and the Teladoc. My other stocks, even though I'm not in it, I think Google leads the list. Love the Google, even though we're really extended here. I think we continue to move higher. Surround yourself with these futuristic stocks, the AI stocks, the robotic, things that are going to be running the world. Stick with those. So let's take a look at the futures here. We'll just take a fast update, and I always try to do this when I come in. If I miss a few days, look at this. Market's pulling back. I'll go back, and I was doing this earlier today, and just kind of going back and see how the day looked. The market opened up, and we kind of had a nice rally. And we kind of embedded up there. And then we had a fast rotation. This would have been considered a bull flag. Let's see if that's set up right. Yeah, right here on the 20 period moving average. And it had a fast little bounce, and then it came back. But it did hold that low, so you should have stayed in it either way, because that would be your stop, that low of the flag. Then it had a divergence. This is actually key. It was a little flag, got a bounce, came back almost a double bottom, high rotation on the 9-3. Tough one, unless you got to be a little bit more experienced on this setup here. That's a tough one to sometimes grab. Then the market got going here a bit. You had this little pullback, and there was another situation here where you had the 60-10 underneath the 80, but you started to get down here. You started to see there was a little divergence here. Might have even started here, and then you had a secondary divergence here. And that kind of moved up, but not something that you could just, you feel comfortable with. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, and probably, at that point, wouldn't take that. And then we got now we're starting to identify 1, 2, 3, 4. Once I get that, and we see we're starting to head back down there, we're waiting for our quad rotations. Now, quad rotation trend line is what we want, and the quad is very important to be underneath the yellow line here. It has to be in between this area there. You see, you can see that line underneath, and then everything else has to be underneath their yellow line. So it gives you an exact entry right there. It's very important to pay attention to that. All right, now you could buy into that, which I always say. If you're on the trend line, you have a 200 period moving average, and you have a quad rotation, you got to close your eye and push that button. All right, if it fails, it fails. But the odds are you're not going to. It's just like you're sitting at the table, and the dealer has a 6 showing, and you have 2/8. You got to split those. That's what the rule book says. You got to take your opportunities when you have them. This is not an exact science. I always say that. But once you have that 1, 2, 3, then you can start concentrating on the 4, 5, and 6. Now I always say, if you got a 1, 2, 3, I always wait for the quad rotation. Now I can only see, you see where that yellow line starts to come underneath there, and it was there. But look what we have here. So this is something you will have to learn how to identify. And it's not that hard to identify this. This is what we call a quad divergence. It's all the 3 bottom stochastics. Actually, this one is a divergence too. It's the bottom of 2, the 60, 10, and the 44. These 2 are actually a divergence. And there was a divergence up here, 9, 3. But that's just as good. 9, 3, 14, 3, the same thing. And you had the low, and then the lower low, and the 200 period moving average, and the recognizable channel. As a recap, can you look back here and see exactly what we're looking at? Downward channel, downward channel, downward channel, downward channel, lower channel line, lower channel line. This is, your odds are you're going to be able, if you're buying into that lower channel line, if you're buying into, the odds are you're probably going to be in safe shape. You're probably going to at least get a bounce back up to the top part. All right, I know that's the hardest part. Is that going to, like, you get in, say for some reason you just say, all right, we're on a lower trend line, or somewhere along here, and you get in here and it goes up to here. How do you know it's not going to break out? All right, well, that's you learn that by watching your 60, watching your fast rotation. If this is pointing down and you get a divergence, you take it off into the 20 first rotation. If this is pointing down, these are all little sets of rules. I'm gonna put out flashcards for this. If the 60-10 is pointing down and you have a divergence, you take the divergence off on the first rotation of the 9-3. If the 60-10 is pushing up or oversold and turning up with the divergence, then you hold it longer. These little things that keep you in and out of trade. It's like your little cheat sheet you have at the blackjack table. Low, lower, low, higher, low, divergence, in, 9-3 rotation, out. This is not really lifting. You're going to start to learn about that. And you're not looking for a lot here because you're not going to get a lot. Look, you only got a little here. You might as well take what you could get, especially if it gets up to that 80 level and you get a little pop. You don't want to deal with any type of negativity. It's too hard to deal with that. All right, so be sure to surround yourself with positive setups. Make sure your criteria is tight. And then this is the first time looking. I'm going back, and I'm just kind of going back now. There was a little gap here, so when I see a little gap down and it pushed through, and then we come back and we test it, that's first test back, and that first bounce is where I'll put that. I'll put that trend line right there. That's very important. The trend, channels 101. It's never the extension on this. It's either the closing price or the first bounce and retest of the lower line. That first bounce. Now that first bounce, you might say, well, was that the first bounce? Yeah, there's different. That could be called the trend line here also. But really, I would say once this established itself, you would move one down here. But actually, this would be just as well, because this came right. You can see there was a nice 1, 2, 3. And then there was a little news that spiked this down. We came back and then retested, and that's where you put it, right there. I think this is the markets right now. I'm not really trading right now, but we are just kind of, I will manage, kind of set this up. This is kind of, I would have considered this a quad rotation right here. Right here, I would consider that a quad rotation. I would not consider. Well, I wouldn't consider this, but there's also something to be said about that high rotation up. And you look at the closing prices, and if they match up pretty close, then we call that a closing price or relative divergence. But in this case, that probably got away from you. Now we're coming back down here. There's actually a little divergence here. A quad rotation. So you have a quad rotation. And you have a trend line here. It's probably not a bad trade opportunity here. This is live. So let's see what comes with this. I don't have anything up here. Let me see if I can bring up my account. do some kind of live trade here. Now, let's see here. All right, 9.3. So what do we see here? We see the 60-10 is embedded. It's under 10. Very, very weak. We got a fast rotation on the 9.3. Now, you could get in. You could be in here. But remember, if everything here points that this is going to drop back down and we're going to we're going to go lower. Everything points to that right now. And the lows being right underneath us, kind of. All right. So one of the rules is, if you get the fast rotations, you buy a quad rotation, lower trend line. You get the fast rotation up above 80. This sold's under 20, and you're holding under the 20. That's a 2020 bear flag. The majority of the time, again, not an exact science. Anything could happen. Could be news coming out of Japan and stuff. But typically, what we'll see is this setup. We'll see this type of move up. This is pointed down. This rotates up. It hits the 80 level, and then it drops off. More times than it doesn't. All right. Move up. Gets to the 80 line. We're hanging on the 20. In this case, it's the 50, and we kind of move back down. All right. So this is, there's not going to be many setups that you're going to learn. You want to learn the key, I would say the 3 to 4 good setups, and that's what we try to go over every single day. Every single day we kind of map these down. Now this is live right now, coming up on 11 o'clock. I should turn on the show and do a little trading today. And I would send out the Voxers for this too. This is another cool thing. Well, I'll actually do send out a Voxer right now. Well, actually, what time is it? 10, 11 o'clock? Ooh, sometimes I don't send them past 11 o'clock. But the Voxer network is the walkie-talkie on your computer, on your phone, actually. And there's thousands of people signed up for this. A lot of them, you get it with your membership at Day Trading Radio. And it goes on your phone, and when there's a setup, when this sets up, I send out the alert, being that a quad rotation or a divergence, or even the case where we have a bull bear flag. And I'll send those out. As long as I'm in front of the market and I'm able to do that, I will do that. All right. Today I did not send out any alerts. And again, I apologize. I was on the road. I did send out a little notice this morning saying I wasn't going to be doing any alerts tonight. I would probably send some out tonight if I was in front of the computer trading. I would do that. But tomorrow we're back on schedule. Let me leave it at that. Let me try to get the show on and get some members in the room here. Late night European crowd coming in, and we'll see if we can get some trading here. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the markets.